All right, so we've got another list / articles that is making waves around the internet. And Dwight Howard gave some reaction to this. I actually saw the reaction to this video from the Dreamers Pro channel, which is a great channel, fellow Laker fan, big Kobe fan. And so check out his channel. But I didn't watch all of his video because I was about a third of the way through it when I realized I wanted to give my own reaction to this. So thank God we're not reacting to a Bleacher Report video for once, or a Bleacher Report article. This one actually comes from CBS Sports. And I gotta say, before I get into the list, I hope I don't critique their list too much because I just love this concept. So basically, let me explain it to you. We are a quarter way into this century. And so because of that, they are doing their NBA all quarter century teams. So you know how year in and year out, annually the NBA does first team all NBA, second team all NBA, third team all NBA. CBS Sports did that for the first 25 years of this century. So obviously guys like Michael Jordan, unless you put him in there just for his Wizards years, he's not going to be applicable to a list like this. But anybody who played from 2000 and beyond, specifically for the time they were playing 2000 and beyond. So take Kobe for example here, anything he accomplished, prior to 2000, same thing with Tim Duncan, that's not going to be applicable to this list. We're looking at specifically what they did since the turn of the millennium. So I'm actually excited to react to this because it hadn't really dawned on me that we're a quarter of the way into the new century. And so I think this is going to be a fun concept. The one hot take I know is revolving around Shaquille O'Neal from this list. And I have some thoughts on that, but we'll get into it. I'll give my thoughts on the rest of the list. And please let me know what you guys think about these All-NBA teams as well. Now, I will say, usually when I'm reacting to these articles, reacting to videos and that sort of thing, I'm giving my feedback, but I'm not giving you my definitive answer on my own list. In this video, I'm going to. And not only am I going to react to whatever CBS Sports has to say, but I am going to, by the end of it, give you my definitive first team, second team, and third team. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this list. So let's see what they got to say. First off, man, there's a lot of explaining and stuff. I mean, you guys see the article. If you guys want to go and read all their metrics and how they determine all this, you can do that. But let's go ahead and get to the first team. Okay, so first team, we got Steph Curry. Second team is Kobe Bryant. First is Steph, then Kobe, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, and at center is Nikola Jokic. This was the big controversial one. Even Dwight Howard tweeted that this should have been Shaquille O'Neal instead, which is actually kind of a cool move coming from Dwight Howard, seeing how much flack he gets from Shaq typically. So mature move on his end. Nikola Jokic is incredible, and there are certain things that he is elite at that Shaq is not. If you look at the numbers, Jokic is a better rebounder than Shaquille O'Neal. That was probably one of the big critiques of Shaq's career, is being 7'1", 330 to 350 pounds, however big he actually was. He never really dominated from a rebounding standpoint, at least during the regular season. There were times in the NBA Finals against Eastern Conference teams where he certainly took advantage of the matchup and dominated on the boards. But typically on a year-in to year-out perspective, Shaq didn't dominate the boards. On top of that, Nikola Jokic is a way better passer than Shaquille O'Neal was. Shaq was still a pretty good underrated passer. When defenses collapsed upon him, he would do a pretty good job of kicking it out to his perimeter shooting teammates. But Jokic, I mean, he's the greatest passing big man in NBA history, only really rivaled by very few guys. Maybe Arvydas Sabonis, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Walton, but to me, Nikola Jokic now stands at the very top of that list. And I think defensively, you got to give Shaq the edge on that one, although Shaq isn't necessarily one of the best defensive bigs of his era either. So, I mean, there is a lot of arguments for the Joker, and if you've got this much talent to play along with, having a guy who is going to be as good as Jokic at finding these guys, it's not a terrible pick. And so, I mean, just imagine, I know people have said, imagine Shaq and Steph Curry as a tandem, But the guy who's going to find him every single time he's wide open is actually Nikola Jokic. And so I don't hate this list if you're looking at it from the perspective of this being an actual team and them playing together. But that's probably not the way we're actually factoring that in, right? I mean, we're looking at simply who's the most deserving player at that position. So for that reason, I would go with Shaquille O'Neal. I get why people would go with Nikola Jokic. I love Jokic. I believe he's been snubbed out of MVPs that he absolutely deserved. I believe he gets, he deserves all of the praise he gets. He's one of the greatest players of all time. But Shaq, I think for since 2000, it's got to be Shaq. As far as the rest of the list, I got no problems with it whatsoever. Tim Duncan, great at the power forward position. What you could have done, honestly, is you could have moved Tim Duncan to the center spot to put a different power forward here if you wanted. And then you could have freaking Jokic and Shaq as second team and third team, which would be crazy. There's there's different things you could do with this list. But overall, I don't hate this. I just swap Shaq instead. Now let's go to the second team. They wrote a whole article about this, and this is actually something I think is cool from CBS Sports. Like right here, they break down the amount of games played. They break down all their different logic. Like, I feel like there was a lot of passion that went into this, unlike some of the Bleacher Report articles that I've seen. And so far, I'm actually really liking, the way they did this, their logic that goes into it. I think it's pretty solid. All right. So the second team. Now you got Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant, Giannis at power forward, and Shaq at center. Obviously, we got to have Shaq at center if Jokic is going to be on the first team. Personally, I would have Jokic on this second team instead. Giannis, power forward. Yeah, I think you got to go with that. You could go with Dirk Nowitzki, or you could go with Kevin Garnett is another option. Giannis, I think I'd go with Giannis just because of his legendary performance in the NBA Finals, especially to close out the series in Game 6. It's one of the greatest Finals performances in NBA history. His 2020 season was all-time great. He's also a Defensive Player of the Year winner, so if you want to talk about just two-way dominance, that's Giannis. Kevin Durant, absolutely. Easy choice for small forward. Dwayne Wade, easy choice. Point guard is a little bit interesting. I don't mind Chris Paul second team. I think especially Chris Paul because of his longevity. Like, his best days were definitely in New Orleans. But then he had his tenure in, with the Clippers, where he was really effective. And then he had, his tenure with the Rockets, where they nearly went to the NBA Finals. And then even in OKC, he rewound the clock. And every single team he's gone to, he's made better. And he's been doing it for so long. He's now second all-time on the assists list. And so, honestly, I don't have a problem with it. Would this be the exact same? No, because Jokic is going to be here instead. But I think I'd almost have the same team. So I think these are sound choices, to be honest. All right. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so they have their battle for the spot on the second team was between Chris Paul and Steve Nash. And I think that's interesting. That's basically a teaser that Steve Nash is going to be on the third team. And I don't know if I like that because there's a couple guys you could look at. Jason Kidd. I think I'd rather have Jason Kidd because as great as Steve Nash is as an offensive player, leading the NBA in assists year after year, great free throw shooter, three-point shooter, has more 50, 40, 90 seasons than any other player in NBA history. Like, dude was epitome of efficiency, and even in this modern era, he'd be deadly because he just loves shooting transition threes. With that being said, I still think I'd rather have Jason Kidd, and the reason being is because Jason Kidd has, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, I'll probably put it on the screen, but he has a lot of all defense team selections. Kidd was a fantastic two-way player, triple-double machine. Like, you could argue Kidd versus Nash on the offensive end, and you're probably going to give the slight edge to Nash just because of the efficiency. And he was always a great three-point shooter, unlike Jason Kidd, who had to become a great three-point shooter. But on the defensive end, Steve Nash is a cone. And so he's just a cone on defense. A genuine liability, one of the worst defensive point guards of his era. And like before Damian Lillard, like basically I'll put it this way, Steve Nash walked so that Damian Lillard could run. Okay, like when you talk about horrible defensive superstar point guards. And so would much rather have Jason Kidd, I think, on the second team. So now we're going to the third team. As we guessed, Steve Nash is there. I would swap him out for Jason Kidd. James Harden at shooting guard since 2000. I think you have to go with James Harden. Guys you could put there, potentially Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, whether you want to have them as a shooting guard or a small forward. But again, because of the longevity, I think James Harden's a good choice. Kawhi Leonard, absolutely, at small forward, two-way dominance, multiple championships, great defensive player, legendary 2019 playoff run. Dirk Nowitzki at power forward and Dwight Howard at center. Dwight, definitely. Dirk is tough, dude. I know people love Dirk, and I know the 2011 championship run was legendary. I know he was great for being a stretch 7'4" perimeter shooter. Not 7'4", but 7-foot perimeter shooter. And so I know that people just love Nowitzki. But leading up to 2011, this guy was seen as a playoff choker. You know, lost to the Golden State Warriors as a first seed. They were the 8th seed. They were 67-15. They had to hand him the MVP trophy after he had been eliminated. They were winning 50 to 60 games year after year after year, and they just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. There was multiple instances of Dirk just not doing his part. Then for a while, he actually had the nickname Irk Nowitzki because the lack of D in his game, so they called him Irk Nowitzki. And they did the same thing with the Dallas Mavericks. I remember the Mavericks being called the Alice Mavericks because the team had no D. And so that mostly falls on him. He was very much a one-way player. He had some quickness early on in his career, but he aged out of that rather quickly. And, you know, especially as he got towards his 30s, the guy was very slow and kind of a defensive liability. So personally, for third team, I would go at the power forward, first team Tim Duncan, second team Giannis, third team, I would rather have Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett does more things. He provides more things than Dirk Nowitzki does. Kevin Garnett is one of the select few greatest defensive players in the history of the NBA. He has 12 all-defense teams to Dirk's 0. On top of that, you know, better passer, better rebounder. I think you have to go with KG. And, you know, it's not like Dirk played with a ton of superstar talent throughout his career. He had Nash early on. But I tell you what, I would take the supporting cast that Dirk had in Dallas leading up to 2008 compared to what Kevin Garnett had in Minnesota, without question. So yeah, give me KG there. There's some other power forwards that might be worth mentioning. Amari Stoudemire, Chris Webber. You know, there might be other ones I'm not thinking of right now. Draymond Green even. I'm sure there's someone huge I'm not thinking of, and you guys will let me know in the comments section. But KG here for me. The other thing is, I know, these are probably just the most deserving players at each position. But I tell you what, if this has to be a cohesive unit, like starting five, you have got a cone on defense, you've got a cone on defense, and you've got a cone on defense. And so if I'm going to have Nash and James Harden on my perimeter, I would want another interior defender to help out Dwight Howard because these guys are liabilities. So again, that's why I'd have KG. So yeah, that kind of finalizes my list. Let me know in the comments section how your list changes from mine. Again, swap out Shaq. Jokic goes on the second team. Chris Paul there. I think I agree with everything there. And then here, Jason Kidd instead of Steve Nash. Allen Iverson might get some love as well, but I like a pure point guard. And so I'd have Jason Kidd there. And then, yeah, KG here instead of Dirk. It's really hard, though, because, I mean, you're having to cut out NBA legends, like some great legends. Yeah, and then they even mention, you know, some players that haven't done enough to warrant a selection, but are almost there, like Luka Doncic, SGA. I would say Jason Tatum belongs in that group as well. But I gotta say, I really like this. Good job, CBS Sports. I'm kind of getting tired of, negatively responding to all these lists, criticizing them like I know better. It's just my opinion versus theirs. But ultimately on this list, I like this one. I think this was a job well done. I'll probably go back and read all of their explanations and stuff because their logic seems pretty sound. And, I know Jokic over Shaq is the big controversy right now. But Jokic is special, man, in so many ways. So it's not my choice, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And imagine him passing to all these guys. You could argue with Tim Duncan protecting the rim, Nikola Jokic doesn't even have as much pressure on him as a defensive player. So, if this was a team as well, that also makes sense. So anyway, I've been blabbering long enough. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know what you think about CBS Sports picks, and let me know what you think about my picks, what you would do differently. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.